Depression is very hard. It's almost always the case that the only ones who truly understand this are people who have gone through it. Mental health professionals also understand it, not just from reading textbooks, but also because they have seen patients in their offices who struggle with depression, and that gives them a huge insight into how painful this mental illness is and can be. So many people have no idea what they're talking about when they say things like, depression is just sadness, it'll pass, or just think positive thoughts. I will admit that these tips are actually true, but they oftentimes fail to capture the depth of the pain that the depressed person is in. The comments that non-depressed people give to depressed people is oftentimes very shallow and can seem like they lack empathy. Hence why many depressed people, including myself before, ignore such advice. When I was depressed, changing my negative thoughts into positive ones worked, but only temporarily. It was a band-aid solution to my problems, because when I would tackle one negative thought, I would get 10 more that I needed to also take care of. Understandably, this became unmanageable, and I started to question whether this is what I actually need in order for me to beat my depression. I needed something that not only chips away at the edges of my problem, but actually gets to the root cause of it. Why was I depressed in the first place? Where did it all start from? At the time of asking such questions, I had no idea what the answers were. All I know is that I was depressed and miserable, and I hated absolutely every single second of it. I was so desperate for change, but I just didn't know where to start because I was so overwhelmed with my depression and also on how to cure myself of it. At first, it was suggested to me that I see a therapist, but I had this idea that only crazy people go to therapy to get themselves fixed. I believed in the reality of mental illness, but for some odd reason, I believed that I am the exception in that I can solve my issue on my own, without the help of therapy or medication. Suffice it to say that I quickly found out how wrong I was. You see, my depression was so bad that I quit work, quit school, and just stayed home all day, sleeping, playing video games, watching YouTube, TV, and explicit materials of a sexual and violent nature. In other words, I was just sinking myself deeper into the hole I dug for myself while I was depressed. Healing began when I started to acknowledge that I had a problem and it needed to be fixed. This wasn't something for which I can just snap my finger and everything was going to be fine. During my time in therapy, I started to realize, slowly but surely, why I was thinking the way I was. I began to realize the cognitive distortions I was engaging in that were making me feel so depressed. The technique that eventually helped me was called cognitive behavioral therapy, or CBT for short. As I mentioned in previous videos, one of my therapists recommended the book Feeling Good by Dr. David Burns, and it is to this book that I give so much credit for helping me understand my mindset and how it was actually an entire belief system that was handicapping me emotionally, not just a few isolated thoughts. That's why I couldn't just defeat my mood disorder with mere negative to positive switching of thoughts. I needed to tackle the underlying beliefs which I had about myself and the world that were making me depressed. Slowly but surely, I began to feel better about myself and the world around me, and hence my depression got less and less severe. I still maintain the things I did in order to beat my depression up to this day. You can never really let your guard down, but it also doesn't mean that you have to be paranoid and on edge, because the more experience and knowledge you have about depression, the better you will be able to defeat and overcome it, and also help others do the same thing. The bottom line is that you cannot give up just because you struggle. Instead, you need to get the help that you need by seeing a professional and also maintaining an overall healthy lifestyle. This means having close relationships that are meaningful, eating properly, and exercising regularly. I would also suggest exploring your spirituality so that way you have a holistic view of reality instead of just a materialistic one. So that's it for this video. If you like this content, make sure to give it a thumbs up, subscribe, comment, and share to get notified about more videos like this one. Thank you for watching and see you in the next video.